Hey guys, Jim here from lowcostwatersofteners.com. I wanted to do a review on the Fleck Iron Pro 2. And the reason for the review is a guy asked me, he said, hey, have you ever heard of this product and what do you think about it? And I said no. So I started trying to do some research, and all I found was reviews that someone had just wrote up a review. They talked about what's inside of it, actually, or what it does. They never talked about the media. And I haven't found a spot on a forum where the guy who made the comment he didn't like the product or what it did, and he was kind of negative. And so I did some digging and I found out what's on the inside. And this is, before I go any further, I want to do two things. One, if you could stop the video and hit subscribe, I would certainly appreciate it, so that way any of my videos that I do, you'll get a notification through email, and perhaps it'll help you or help one of your friends or neighbors, because if you're looking at this video, all your neighbors have water softeners too, if you do. So, and I think we're also going to be interrupted by my son. The other thing is that I wanted to let you know about is the engineers who engineered this product and they promote it for Fleck. They did their research, and they know what they're talking about, and so in theory this works. But keep in mind that they do it in a perfect environment. Now we're going to talk about the real world environment and end users, guys like you and I, and we need to know a lot of information when we use something like this, and there are a lot of variables. So that being said, like I said, the engineers know what they're talking about. They put this thing together, and in theory it's supposed to work, but there are a lot of variables and a lot of circumstances where this won't work, and that's what I'm just basically going to talk about. So it's got a high capacity resin, which means it can take out more iron. It also has carbon in it for hydrogen sulfide, or your sulfur smell, H2S, rotten egg smell. And then it's got KDF, which is designed to help take out chlorine. It also helps prevent bacteria. Now, I'm going to start the way it would sit in the water softener. KDF, they put 5 pounds of KDF in it. So KDF is going to sit at the bottom down there with your gravel. And the first thing is you have to have a lot of pressure and backflow in order to lift that bed, because you're lifting that 5 pounds of KDF plus the water softener media plus the carbon. And when the carbon's going to sit on the top. So when the carbon gets full of water, it also gets heavy. When you first put it in, it's light, it gets full of water, now it's heavy. So you've got to have a good backflow rate and the pressure to do that. And if your water well system isn't working like it's supposed to, that's going to create a problem. The next thing is the medium, the water softener medium. That's super, that's great. It gets rid of the iron and the calcium, but from what I've seen, nobody tells you if you've got a high iron content and a high calcium content, or just 10 to 15 grains per gallon hard calcium, but you've got 5 or 10 grains per gallon hard of or parts per million rather iron, you're going to need more salt, because the iron is attached to the medium first and then the calcium. And so you need salt to take off the calcium, and you need more salt to take off the iron to regenerate the media beads. So nobody mentions that. And then you've got carbon. Now carbon takes out hydrogen sulfide, some heavy metals, lead and stuff like that, and that's awesome. This is the problem with water wells. If you have a galvanized tank, that means the big gray tank, so when the pump comes on, it shoots a 20-foot column of air into the tank to help pressurize it. Well, the problem with that is this: when that air and that water mix, it precipitates, or it oxidizes the iron, and it precipitates out. So now it becomes a solid, and that solid gets into your carbon and plugs up the micropores and mesopores. So now your carbon's going to get fouled in just a few short months. Or if you've got a hole in your pipe, and sometimes the carbon gets oxidized just because, not the carbon, I'm sorry, but the iron, because in your well there's air touching the water, and it becomes a solid, and as it flows down and your pump kicks on at the same time that it's flowing down, it's going to suck in those solids, and it's going to clog up your carbon media. So I'm not saying it's a bad product, I'm just saying that there are a lot of variables that go with all this. And so if you're using the Iron Pro 2, then, and you've got a galvanized tank, it's going to fail and you're going to complain and have problems. If you don't have a lot of pressure, you're going to need at least consistently 60 psi. That means you got to crank your pressure switch up to 70. You got to make sure you have enough water flow. And oftentimes when people have high iron, they don't have a lot of water flow. They're like on a low production well, or they don't have a lot of water flow because the iron plugging up the pipe, the drop pipe, gets around the pump. I mean, there are a bazillion variables that can be involved in all this. And so now you run into another problem where it's not going to lift the bed, so the bed's not going to get all stirred up like it's supposed to, so that all the salt can get in there and knock off the iron and the calcium and magnesium from the media beads, and then all of a sudden it starts getting plugged up, and then all of a sudden you say it's not working, or your salt setting isn't high enough to knock off the calcium, knock off the iron and magnesium and anything else that's attached to your media beads, because there are other things in your water that your media beads attract. And so then you have another problem. It doesn't work, and then you get mad at the manufacturer. So my two favorites are the AO1. You'll see down below, it's just an air injection. It's got a little bubble in the top, water comes through, and it oxidizes the iron. When it hits the air bubble, it becomes a solid, it gets caught, and then back washed out. Then there's another one that uses Phylox. Now the Phylox is a little bit more expensive than the AO1, but the thing I like about the Phylox is this. The manufacturer says if you've got your pH is down to 5, as low as 5, that's pretty low, it's okay, Phylox will work with that. So you need to know what your pH is before you decide whether or not you want to buy an air injection, because that's really like supposed to be like a 6.8, but I've used it at a 6.2, never at a 5. So if it's below 6.2, 6.5, then your pH, then you're gonna want to get a the Phylox system, okay? And so you can look up Phylox, what is Phylox, and you can see how it works and what it is. I just want to keep the video kind of short and just give you a review. So anyways, Phylox system handles lower pH levels, and your AO1 will handle, you know, basically 6.5, and you can look and see what the manufacturer says, but I believe it's like 6.8 to neutral, maybe 8.2. But like I said, I've seen them work at even 6, I think. It's been a while since I've installed one, but nonetheless, I could do that, because if it didn't work, I'd have to buy it back from the customer. But anyways, I hope the video helps. There's some other things in there to help you raise pH, like you can add calcium and calcite, which are Coral 6 and calcite in a little tank, you know, an upflow tank, and to raise your pH. Chlorine raises the pH, but it also oxidizes the iron and becomes a solid, so then you start running into other variables and other things. And I always try and keep it simple, because you don't want to spend a ton of money and have a whole bunch of equipment that you got to maintain and mess with and stuff. So if you want the Fleck Iron Pro 2, then you've got to have almost perfect conditions. If you don't have almost perfect conditions, or you're not sure, if you got like a 6.5 to an 8.2 pH level, then go ahead and get the AO1. If you've got lower pH than that, like a 5 or higher, then you're going to want to get the Phylox system, and both of those will be down there in the description. Okay? So I hope the video helps. If it did, give us a thumbs up. If you got any questions, ask. We appreciate your comments. And if you didn't subscribe in the beginning, please just hit the subscribe button down there. Appreciate you guys, and you have a great day.